When you've done sync licensing as long as I have, going back to 2008, 16 years into it now, you start noticing some things, okay? And I want to basically in this video let you guys know one of the clear, obvious patterns I've noticed in terms of what separates the producers that are thriving, doing great, seeing their royalties grow, just seeing a lot of forward momentum in this business, and those that are struggling and are getting resentful and bitter. Maybe they gave a library or two a shot with a couple of albums, but they haven't seen the placements and they're like, I don't think sync's really the thing. It's all a scam or it's all BS and there's really no future or promise for me in this industry. I'm gonna let you know right off the bat, it's not your talent. It's not your DAW. It's not your samples. It's not your studio. It's probably not even your direct library relationships that you have in this business. All those things are important. They all play a role. But above all of those are kind of the weeds. Those are the details. Above all of those is what's happening right here in your mind. I noticed, and we definitely saw this at Sync Up, our in-person event, the common thread between all of those successful producers and composers that some of you guys that were there in person or virtually saw, it has to do with what they're thinking about, how they're thinking about things, what their attitude is, how they approach this industry. That is the make or break issue, detail, element, variable, whatever you want to call it, that is literally slicing people down the middle in terms of some people that are doing great here and some people that are really struggling in this business. And it's all about how they think. It sounds stupid. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds way woo and kind of oversimplified, and that can't make the big difference, can it? I am telling you guys in my personal life, it has made the difference, and I'm seeing it consistently play out with everybody that does well in this business. So please do take a moment just to finish this video out, because I think this is something that we all need to consistently remind ourselves, because this industry is going to kick our asses over and over again, right? Rejections, just the length of time it takes to get those royalties, to get placements, risking and being vulnerable and putting your music in the hands of a new publisher, a new library, or not really sure if they're going to be able to deliver for you. I've been there. You guys have probably been there, or if not, you're going to be there. Okay. So it's a really scary, delicate situation. And unfortunately, there aren't really very clear answers to any of this kind of stuff. A lot of it comes down to your gut, comes down to your intuition, but most of it's going to come down to how you think about this business. So let me explain. The biggest question that unsuccessful producers are asking their libraries, okay? This is the unsuccessful ones. And what I mean by unsuccessful, meaning that they're not untalented or they don't have great music or something like that, and they're not maybe amazing, great people. They could be all of those things, but they're not seeing placements, royalties, and they're not seeing just forward momentum in any way that they want to categorize that or measure that. The question that those producers are always asking their libraries is, hey, where are all my placements? How come I don't have any placements yet, bro? What's going on? I gave you an album. I gave you 2 albums. It's been 6 months. It's been 9 months. It's been a year. Where are my placements? That is the question that every library owner who's watching this video right now is probably laughing, because they see the pattern too, where you get the producer or composer that drops off 10 tracks, 20 tracks, maybe even 30 tracks with a library, with a publisher, kind of walks away, doesn't do much after that, and then just kind of sits there and waits and says, all right, well, let's see what you do with those tracks. Before I keep committing to you, before I keep giving you more music or continue a conversation, let's just see what you can do with that. It's a kind of wait and see approach of sitting back, folding your arms, and just waiting for them to create magic for you and hoping that they're going to get you placements, which of course, yes, that is their job. That's what you signed over your tracks for them to do. But you all know, and we know, that there are no guarantees that that will absolutely happen. Those producers usually don't see placements. They usually don't see forward momentum. They usually don't have great relationships with their library partners. And those are usually the ones that 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, sort of just back away from the industry and then go do something else. And sometimes about a year or two later, get like a surprising royalty statement from BMI or ASCAP. And it might be hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars. And that's when they scramble and go, oh crap, like it actually was working. I didn't know it took this long. Okay. Then they come back to their publisher and say, I want to give you more music. Like, let's get this thing going again. Most common story in this industry. Literally 80 to 90% of producers fall into that. So if you've done that, it's totally cool. It's not a judgment or anything like that. I don't know if there's a way that I could coach you or educate you or advise you out of that cycle. I just think that that's just kind of like the human nature of wanting results quickly. matched with this industry that just takes so long for it to work out, and no clear transparency on like, am I getting a lot of placements? Is it happening? We have to wait for our royalties, right? I don't know if there's a way around that. I luckily didn't have to go through that. I just consistently kept showing up. But a lot of people, 80 to 90% of us, don't keep showing up. We have to kind of see results before we keep doing it, which is very understandable. Again, not to be judgmental on that. So that's what the unsuccessful people who are not seeing a lot of results in this industry are asking. Hey, where are my placements? You want to know what the successful producers are asking. You probably already know if you've been watching this channel for a while. The successful question that producers and composers are asking that are seeing results are, how can I help you? How can I serve you? In this next batch of tracks that I create, how can I make them even more relevant, more licensable, more useful for you and your TV and film clients? Because you obviously accepted what I did before. Maybe there's something going on right now. There's some new sporting event or season or a client initiative. Maybe you're trying to, and some of the library partners I've worked with, they are trying to get a foothold into major sporting networks like a Major League Baseball network or an NHL network or the BBC or something like that. Keeping these conversations open to say, I am here to make music. I'm going to spend a lot of time in my studio, but I want to make sure that the next 10 tracks I create are going to be at the top of your list in terms of they are the most relevant, they're most useful, and something that's really filling a need for you right now, because I don't want to make music that'll be useful for you in 2 years potentially or 10 years potentially. I want to know what you're working on right now. What's important to you? What can I do to help? How can I serve you? You notice the difference there, right? The first question was, where are my placements? How can you help me? Right? Why aren't you giving me stuff? I need more stuff here to keep going. The second question is, what do you need? How can I make your life better, helpful, more relevant? Because if I'm making your life more helpful and relevant to your library partners, I'm going to be getting more placements anyways. Like the side effect of me being useful is more placements and more income. This is the mindset shift that is required to really thrive in this business. And one thing that I think was great about Anthony Crawford, he was this amazing, very talented, crazy talented. I'm going to have him back on the channel soon. Producer who produces in multiple different genres, and he's great at multiple ones, which is actually very rare. But one thing he said at Sync Up, which has been sticking with me, is he says, after I send my tracks off to a catalog, I don't think about them anymore. I have zero expectations that any of them get any placements. I hope that they do. Obviously, I'm crafting them in a way that's going to be helpful and relevant for them. But once they're in their hands, like, I'm going to trust that they're going to do their job. And then I got to go back to being productive and doing my job, which is, all right, what's on my docket for the next week? They're handling all that. I'm moving forward. In his brain, there is no expectation that something magical is going to happen over here. We want things to happen. This is the hardest part about this business. We want them. We are obviously doing this because we want to get placements. We want sync fees, royalties. We want this to become significant part-time or maybe even full-time income for us. For sure. That was my intention all those years ago. So it's hard to let go of that and to pretend like that's not something that's pulling you, and to just focus on what you can control, which is your next track, right? That's really all we got in this business. What can I do next? And if you're going to be spending time waking up early, staying up late, sacrificing your weekends, sacrificing family time, friend time, socializing time, why not make sure that the next track or the next group of tracks that you have are extremely relevant and useful for the library partners that you're partnered with? And the only way to know how to do that is not to assume, don't guess, don't think that you've got all the answers, because this is a mistake that I made, was making a lot of music that I thought was great and really useful, and then I sent it off to libraries, and some of them accepted them, and they got 0 placements, and others rightly right off the bat said, cool music, but like, this is not at all useful for us at all. And so I had to learn that lesson the hard way after spending a lot of time, money, and effort making music that just wasn't licensable. So the shortcut to all of this stuff is communication between you and your library partners to say, how can I help? How can I be useful? How can the next track or the next group of tracks or next album that I create become the most useful and relevant for you right now? If you can stick with this mindset of letting go of expectations, outcome independence, if you've ever heard of that term, letting go of, well, either I get placements or I'm a failure. You have to let go of that framing. That is a game. It's a dangerous game that you absolutely can lose. If I had played that game in my career, there's no way I would have kept going, because most of my tracks have not been placed in my career, okay? It's a small number of them that are doing most of the work, most of the heavy lifting for my career and for my income, okay? Probably likely same will happen for you, depending on, I guess, your approach to this business. But I remember every single time I got a disappointing royalty statement, I got passed over for a custom opportunity, some punch in the gut one way or another from any of this industry. There was always this moment of, how do I decide? This is my choice. This is what I can control. How do I perceive this? And what moves do I make now? That's pretty much it. Here's what life gave me. It's a bucket load of lemons, right? Over and over again. Do I cry about it? Do I give up? Do I sulk? Do I get bitter, resentful, passive aggressive? I've been tempted. I've had my moments. I've had times where I've not been proud of how I responded to all the things that this industry has given me. But one reason or another, I figured out a way to go, okay, here are the lemons. What can I do to make this into lemonade? How can I squeeze this? How can I approach? How can I change this? Maybe if I'm not getting great results, that means that my communication needs to step up. That's probably the biggest lesson for most of you guys. I'll be honest right now. If you're not getting results from your library, chances are your relationships and your communication has not been pretty consistent and ongoing. That's usually the biggest sign that I've noticed from some producers that are doing well, and those that are going like, well, I gave it to them a year ago and I just haven't seen anything. You know, I always ask, when was the last time you talked to them on the phone? Not just an email, but just phone call of saying, hey, you know, I really want to make sure that this, you're the right partner for me. Do you value what I'm giving you? Is this helpful? And most times of those composers, oh, I've never gone on the phone with them, or I talked to them when I first submitted, but we haven't talked since. That's not always on them, guys. Libraries are very busy people. They've got two sets of clients. They got their TV film clients and all of you. You've just got them. You've just got one client. I mean, you might have multiple libraries you're working with, but take some initiative and responsibility to, like, you can ask them for a conversation in a phone call or a Zoom call, and you can ask them for consistent communication. And if they're not giving that to you, you're not able to give that to you, that might be a sign that maybe this isn't the right library partner for you. Again, just because I'm saying you have to consistently show up and create new music for these library partners, if you had this relationship, it's been a year, 2 years, and you're constantly giving them music and you're getting no placements, even though communication is great, maybe your music isn't in the right hands. Maybe it's just not the right place for you at that time. So it doesn't mean you just blindly keep giving music to these library publishers. You kind of have to trust your gut a little bit and kind of ask some harder questions about that. And it's okay to move on from a library, even if they're great people, they've been treating you well, answering your questions, being very approachable, but no results have been coming in. It's okay to walk away from a relationship like that. You should be valuing your career and your music and yourself enough to realize that you deserve to be seeing some placements and some progress. If you're not getting enough of that, then maybe it's time for you to move on to another library. So anyways, it's a tricky subject. There are multiple assets and facets to this and multiple perspectives. I want to now know, what do you guys think? Have you been in this situation? Have you been feeling this and not really sure where you should be going in your career right now? Comment below. I'd love to help in any possible way that I can, but hopefully this was helpful in terms of letting you guys know what I think really separates those that thrive in sync from those that are really struggling.